Hey everyone, I'm back. What is going on with that freezing? That is really, really weird. I don't like it. And I always wonder if the topic that I'm speaking about has something to do with the freezing, because that is really, really, really weird. It is very, very, very suspicious. So someone take this link, post it in the link to the other live. Let's get this going again. There were well over 100 of you in there, so let's keep this conversation going. Thanks, Nathaniel. I'm glad you're with me. Thanks, Maupin Time. I'm back. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're not going to hold me down, as they say, right? My goodness, what happened? Why was I getting frozen there as I was talking about Eastern European anti-communists and their Nazi proclivities? What was going on there? I don't know. I almost don't want to know. But yes, folks, wow, so much to talk about. I don't want to speculate, but Kinky did say that I'm the only blogger that she knows this happens to. Very interesting. Very interesting. So while we're getting going again here, I see people are already talking. Already people are talking. I see that already people are talking about the confrontations I had with some of these protesters. Interesting, huh? So these Venezuelan opposition folks, watch the video. The video speaks for itself. I don't want to reiterate it. I don't want to tell you what they said and say a couple words off or something. So go watch the video for yourself. It's got a lot of views already, and views keep pouring in on. I confronted these anti-Maduro Venezuelans who were out in front of the United Nations. I confronted them, and I argued with them, and I was blown away at the dishonesty. They were saying things that were not conceivably true, that American media, gives them a pass on. I argued with them, confronted them on the kind of things they routinely say against the government of Venezuela, and there you go. I also confronted the Tibet separatists. There weren't that many of them, but I had an opportunity. I was in the right place at the right time, and they were there. I was able to walk over to the protest cage, and there were some Tibet separatists. So I was able to, go and argue with some Tibet separatists. It was interesting. Hey, glad to do it. Those folks are like a pet peeve of mine. They really are. They really are. I've seen what's happened to the country of Iraq. I've seen what's happened to the people of Afghanistan. I've seen what's happened to the people of Libya. I've seen what's happened to the people of Syria, and these folks hate their own people so much they want that to happen again. I mean, it is pretty unbelievable, right? And the Venezuelan guy told me he wanted the United States to invade Venezuela. He wanted that. He was very, very clear about that, one of the people I interviewed. The Tibet Civil War. Read about the Tibet Civil War and how ugly it was, and how the Dalai Lama's brother was airdropped along with other groups into Tibet to engage in violent guerrilla warfare and terrorism. You can go down the line. These folks who come to the United States and are basically tools of the U.S. government against their own country get on my nerves. They always have. And part of the reason they get on my nerves is, poll after poll can come out in every formerly socialist country of Eastern Europe. Poll after poll can come out. Right? Poll after poll can come out in every formerly Eastern European country that was socialist, where people say life was better. Right? Every single one of them. Right? People in Lithuania, people in Russia, people in Ukraine, they all say life was better before the fall of the Soviet Union. That's documented. And anti-communists talk about this. Like the Victims of Communism Foundation, it's like a problem they have. Why do people have fond memories of communism? This isn't right. I mean, it's one of the biggest holes in the communism is pure evil and capitalism is the way narrative, is the fact that everyone in these, the poll after poll after poll in Bulgaria and Latvia and all these countries, Estonia, all these polls continue to show that people say life was better under socialism than it is now. But no one in the United States knows that. Why? Why does no one in the United States know that? Well, I met somebody from there. Oh, God. They met one of these people. Right? They met, Joe, the please bomb Venezuelan. They met Steve, whose brother used to live in Albania, and it was utter hell on earth, so therefore capitalism is the best system. It's weird. I've told this story before. I'll never forget when I was on a train. I was on a train, and there was a woman woman from Romania on the train. We were talking about communism. She said, well, I lived under communism in Romania, and it was awful. And I said, isn't it worse in Romania now? And she paused for a moment. And she said, yeah, actually it is a lot worse now. She had never thought of that before. Why? If you come to the United States and you're from one of these countries and you walk around and you say, oh, my life in this communist country was pure hell. It was awful. It was horrible. Everyone says, wow, America is so great for letting you in. Wow, aren't you glad to... You're reinforcing what Americans already believe. But, and I've seen this. So, there was a Serbian guy at my college who actually, had some positive things to say about Yugoslavia. But you walk around the United States and you say, well, there were problems in the socialist country, but, they built a lot of infrastructure and people had jobs, and the room will go silent. And you'll get awkward looks like, are you saying that an evil dictator... And there is a social consequence for talking that way. So people who come from these countries, want to be accepted in the new country, have gotten visas, so they're already not, they're already the kind of people who are managed to get visas to the United States. They learn to talk a certain way. They do. And the account you get of what socialism was like, based on talking to people who fled from socialism to the United States, or people who have moved to the United States, is not an accurate assessment. But everybody knows everything because, oh, wait, I talked to somebody, and it gets on my nerves. And these people go around doing it, and it's like you can see the results of U.S. regime change operations. You can see them. The results of U.S. regime change operations around the world are pretty horrendous, right? I mean, the results of U.S. regime change operations, they don't make life better. These people, they don't even care about that. You confront them with, look at what happens to all these countries. Look what happened in Honduras since the toppling of the socialist leader, Manuel Zelaya. And they just, doesn't matter. And they are full of hate. I mean, the hatred they have for their fellow Venezuelans or their fellow, Ecuadorians or their fellow Bolivians or their fellow Cubans. I mean, they pathologically hate the socialist, leaders of their country, the people aligned with them, the people who vote for them. It's really something special, right? I mean, you take the most anti-Gaddafi Libyans, and I've met them, and you say to them now, well, gee, that things didn't work out so well in Libya. They don't care. They're in the United States. They got a visa. They don't care. Right? Oh, okay. They'll tell you a horror story. Gaddafi was awful. And they've got a story. Might be true, might not be. We don't know. We can't verify it. But they've got a horrible story about Gaddafi. And then you say to this person, well, look at Libya now. Even if everything you're saying about Gaddafi is true, isn't it far worse in Libya? And they'll be like, whatever. I'm here in the United States. I don't care. They don't care. They don't care. They don't care. It's funny. They always accuse people in the United States who believe in socialism of being anti-American, right? You hate America. That's why you're a socialist. Why do you hate America? You hate America. Why do you hate America? You're an America hater. That's what you are. I don't see American socialists calling for the United States to be bombed. I don't. I have never seen an American socialist go around and say, bomb America, kill all my relatives and friends, kill everyone in my community. Yes, bomb my... I've never seen that. We're supposed to be anti-American. We don't do what the Venezuelans do, what the Chinese immigrants do. All these people that hate their homeland, anti-communists in America, who go around saying, please bomb my country, please destroy my country, please rip my country apart, please kill thousands of my country folk, please economically demolish. We don't do that. We say to the U.S. government, please change your policies. We say, please explore socialism. We criticize U.S. government policies. We don't want our fellow Americans to die. We don't want America to be demolished. We don't. We might be critical of it. We might be angry. There's ultra-leftism is a thing, and, I've been very critical of ultra-leftism. But, big, huge but, you don't see us gleefully lobbying foreign governments to kill thousands and millions of our own people. That's what these people are doing. No, you heard it. You heard it from the mouth of that Venezuelan opposition guy. He didn't say I would like to change Venezuela. He said I want the United States to invade Venezuela. And I confronted him about Libya. I confronted him about Iraq. I confronted him about Afghanistan, Honduras. No, he doesn't care. No, it's a different situation, so it'll all be all fine. Right? I mean, seriously. I mean, they always call us traitors, un-American. We don't do anything like what these folks do. You know, we want socialism because we think it would make a better life for the country. Right? I mean, we're the level of loving those who oppress us is not there. So we're going again. I don't know what that freeze was about. Conspiracy theorists abound. So Evo Morales gave an amazing talk. Delcy Rodriguez, the vice president of Venezuela, gave an amazing presentation. My good friend Dakota was in the hall. Dakota Lilly, great friend of mine, longtime friend. We go way back. He actually was in the hall when Delcy gave the talk. Very beautiful. I'm so glad he was there. I was there when I was at the press conference with Lavrov, so we were like in the UN building at the same time. It was kind of cool. But it was great. I mean, it was a great presentation Delcy gave. She talked about the ties of Venezuelan opposition to the drug cartels. It was very powerful stuff. I mentioned Evo Morales' presentation, which was very environmental. Evo Morales, of all the UN leaders, seems to be the most environmental and environmentally concerned, which I think is interesting. So yeah, I mean, it was an interesting UN week. I did a lot of reporting, did a lot of journalism, you know, put up a lot of videos. Yeah, there you go. I'm reading comments. I don't even know what people are talking about. Again, I've always told people, if someone's in the chat and says something weird, ignore it. You know, just ignore it. That's not how we roll, as they say. But you know, hey, you know, so many things to talk about. So, folks, you have to put Greta Mania in the context of the Yellow Vests. Media is not putting them together. Greta is on one side, Yellow Vests are on another side. No, unrelated. They're related. They are very, very, very related, folks. You cannot talk about Greta without talking about the Yellow Vests. We have seen, this is the 46th week of a sustained political uprising in France against an environmental legislation. A piece of environmental legislation, right? A tax that unfairly affected working and low-income people. And there has been the Yellow Vests, the French people, right? French law, you're required to have a yellow vest in your car for safety reasons so that you don't get run over on the highway if you break down. French law. So everyone in France who's a vehicle owner has a yellow vest. And these yellow vest protests against Macron, against corruption, against austerity, and against a tax done in the name of environmental protection that is unfairly hitting low-income people who happen to drive cars. It is a sustained uprising. The Yellow Vests protests. They're ongoing. And what is the issue? It is a law. Now, the Yellow Vest protesters don't. Well, there's all kinds of factions there. There's all kinds of different perspectives among the Yellow Vests. But they're pretty rowdy demonstrations. And they won't stop, right? They've come out with anti-Yellow Vest laws. They keep going. They keep going, they keep going, and they keep going. And, I mean, these are ongoing protests that just keep going. And some of the Yellow Vests, I'm sure, are climate change. They don't believe in it. Some of the Yellow Vests, however, do believe in it. They just don't think that average working people should have to pay for it. They think this is a crime created by the rich and powerful and the big corporations, and they don't think average people should be punished for it. some may not even have a position on it. They're just opposed to austerity and the tax, and they don't even think about climate change. It's a long-term populist uprising, but it's targeting a tax that unfairly affects working people, and it's targeting something done in the name of environmentalism. And it's shaking up French politics, and it won't go away. It just keeps going. It just keeps going and going and going. So, now we have Greta, and the Sunrise Movement, and the Extinction Rebellion. And now we have a new protest movement that's all about environmental regulations. This is divisions among the ruling class. That's what's going on here. This is Bonapartism. There's a section of the European capitalist class that favors more austerity in the name of environmentalism. And there is a section of the European capitalist class that opposes such things. And working class people are being recruited to take part in this battle between different financial interests. There is a political division. There is a division of interests among the ruling class, and working class people are being brought into motion. That's what's happening. I mean, that's what's going on. And I would say that both of these uprisings have legitimate points to make and have problems. The yellow vests are right. Working class people are being forced to bear the burden of a crisis created by the rich and powerful and of capitalism. Right? Working class people are facing austerity. They're being financially squeezed to pay for problems created by the rich. That's wrong. The yellow vests have got a point. And climate change is a big problem. And if we don't do something about it, things are going to only get worse. Greta's got a point. Can't disagree with her on that one. They both have legitimate points to make, but they represent different factions. Different factions that have different financial interests and see things differently. That's what's going on. There are divisions within the ruling class. Macron in France and most of the European establishment seems to be tied to the folks that are promoting Greta. And Trump, and Brexit, and, Marine Le Pen. Some of those forces seem to be tied to the folks that are promoting the yellow vests. That's what's going on here. There are divisions. There is a division among the European ruling class and among the American ruling class about the response to climate change, about international treaties and regulations, about capitalism and the way our economy is set up. Some of them favor a more tightly regulated capitalism. Others favor a more libertarian model. There are divisions within the ruling class. Nathaniel says he respects Greta. Well, I respect somebody who's willing to put themselves out there, talk about a legitimate issue, and face the kind of backlash they're facing. I respect that. I also respect the yellow vests. There are admirable things about both sides of this, and there are problematic things about both sides of this. And we need to keep a cool head and talk about what's actually going on and not get caught up in the chaos. Someone said, I respect Greta and the yellow vests. Me too. There are things about Greta that I don't like, though. But her overall point about climate change being a problem, I'm with her on that. I don't agree with how she singles out Russia and China for criticism. I don't agree with her her embracing of lower forms of energy, the fact that she won't talk about nuclear power. I don't agree with the atmosphere that seems to be people have too much stuff. I've heard, stories about, people are supposed to get up and confess their climate change crimes of using too much energy. and it's starting to turn into a regressive, reactionary atmosphere where it's like in this highly emotional atmosphere, everyone's supposed to want to have less. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with the overall worldview that Greta is promoting, but I agree with her point about the problem. It's a real problem. And some of what the Yellow Vests are saying, I don't agree with. I mean, it's a pretty broad movement, but, there's a lot of French nationalism there. There's a lot of anti-immigrant bigotry among the Yellow Vests. Not all of them feel that way. And, and their overall point is correct. But, again, you can point toward aspects of both that are worth uniting with, and you can criticize aspects of both. And I think the real answer is socialism. Socialism will make a better life for the working people of France, but will stop squeezing them financially and forcing them to pay for the crimes of the rich. And socialism, and a rationally planned economy, will enable us to use resources in a strategic way, not just whatever is in the short-term interests of capitalists. So it'll enable us to move beyond fossil fuels, develop more rational use of resources. So socialism is the answer. Whether you are a Greta maniac or a yellow vest populist, socialism is the answer. And those of us who are socialists should figure out how to talk to both Greta enthusiasts and yellow vest populists. And we should be able to go to them and say, yes, you are right in your grievance, and the answer is socialism, and present them with a socialist worldview. That's what we should do. And what I don't like, I will say, is that among many socialists, there is this orientation that we do whatever the liberals are doing, right? So the liberals are doing the Greta thing. Okay, we'll support Greta. But these yellow vests or these people that are Trump supporters or whatever, well, they're scum and we're not going to talk to them. We hate them. We spit on. No. You should be able to talk to both sides. You should be able to talk to both sides about socialism. Socialism is not, let me emphasize, socialism is not simply making the liberals more liberal. It's not. And socialism is not antithetical to what a lot of people who voted for Donald Trump want. A lot of people who voted for Donald Trump want an end to the wars. They want to, quote, make America great again, which means have a more prosperous economy, have good paying jobs, have roads that are paved. Socialism is not simply Joe Biden on steroids, and socialism is not completely antithetical to what a lot of Trump supporters want. Socialism is socialism. Socialism is not liberalism. It is not conservatism. Socialism is socialism. And that's what people need to remember. And as long as socialism simply attaches itself to whatever the liberals are doing, it's going to be problematic because what the liberals have to offer is not going to offer a solution. The Macron, Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris, that faction is played out, folks. The Eastern establishment, the Rockefellers, the DuPonts, the Carnegies, that wing of things is played out. It's played out. I mean, it's played out. Joe the Red seems to agree with me. And there needs to be a realization of this. And that's why I am critical of what I call movementism. Movementism. So, folks may be aware that Leonard Peltier will be running for vice president of the United States. Good. Great. Right? Socialist Party, they're going to nominate him for vice president. A socialist, particular one of the trends, one of the alphabet soup of socialist parties is going to nominate him. Good. Leonard Peltier, the evidence seems to show that he did not kill those FBI agents. He's not guilty. It was, a political frame-up. The other Native American activists who were charged with him were actually acquitted, but he was tried separately and was convicted. Leonard Peltier is a political prisoner in the United States, and internationally, a lot of people point to his case and say this is a miscarriage of justice, and so one of these socialist groups is going to run him for president. Good for them, right? Raising awareness about his case is not something I oppose. Good thing. Interestingly, I think people don't realize how politically loaded that case is, right? It's something that people on the far left talk about. People free Leonard Peltier. That's been an ongoing left-wing thing, but don't forget that during the end of Bill Clinton's term in office, Bill Clinton was going to pardon Leonard Peltier. I mean, it was going to happen. He was starting to do it. And the FBI director, Louis Freeh, this was in the year 2000, just as Bill Clinton was starting to leave office, FBI Director Louis Freeh assembled hundreds of FBI agents at the White House. And Bill Clinton changed his mind at the last minute. You can read about it. The New York Times reported on this. Hundreds of FBI agents swarmed the White House, led by FBI Director Louis Freeh, to basically make clear to Bill Clinton he better not pardon Leonard Peltier. And he didn't. And Leonard Peltier is in prison. And Obama freed a lot of people as he was leaving office. A lot of nonviolent drug offenders, some Puerto Rican activists, Chelsea Manning even. Obama did not touch Leonard Peltier. The FBI takes it very personally, very, very personally, that anyone would even consider freeing Leonard Peltier. But there are other wings of the American establishment. Right? From what I understand, George Soros very much wants to free Leonard Peltier. George Soros is very interested in Native American issues. And I think that George Soros is not alone. I think, there is a Native American museum in the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. And it's not a secret that the Native American issue is one of the most bad PR aspects of the United States out there, right? There's no way you can go over U.S. history and say that Native Americans got treated fairly. You can't do it. You can't do it. Right? The way Native Americans were treated, if you look at U.S. history, it was genocide, it was mass murder, it was theft of their land, numerous treaties broken, hundreds of treaties there's no way you can look at U.S. history and say, you know what, those Native Americans, what are they complaining about? The U.S. government treated them just, no. Go to Native American reservations, North Dakota, South Dakota, go to the Southwest, go to Oklahoma. Come on. The way Native Americans were treated, the way Native Americans live today, it's pretty clear this is a group of people that really, really, really got mistreated. You can talk about cultural genocide and the Indian schools that they had, where they beat the language out of these kids, took them from their parents. You talk about, there were so many massacres. The massacre at Janitin Hutton, the massacre at Wounded Knee. Nobody in their right mind can say that what was done to the Native Americans was right. Now, I'm saying no one in their right mind, because Ayn Rand thinks it was right. She thinks it was okay because they had done nothing with the land or something like that. Dinesh D'Souza thinks it was okay, said so in a Fox News interview, and said they all died from disease, but no one in their right mind, so not including Ayn Rand and Dinesh D'Souza, beyond insane people, beyond dangerously crazy psychopathic people, no one thinks that what was done to the Native Americans was a good thing. No one. And so, if your job is to try and get people around the world to have a positive image of the United States, that's largely what intelligence agencies do, you can be sure that managing the narrative around Native Americans, you can be sure that that's on your agenda. You can be sure that that is on your agenda. Right? If your job is to try and get people not to think the USA is a horrendous, racist, settler, colonialist, horrific country, you're going to be trying to manage the image of Native Americans. You are going to be trying to go, okay, how do we make this Native American issue not look horrendous for the United States? Think about it. And yes, geopolitical rivals of the United States talk about Native Americans. I don't know if folks are familiar with Dean Reed. Has anyone ever heard of Dean Reed? Well, if you're a young leftist, socialist, or communist, you should have heard of Dean Reed. He was the Red Elvis. He was the Red Elvis. He was a country singer who moved to Chile and eventually moved to the Soviet Union. He brought rock and roll to the Eastern Bloc. He was the Red Elvis. You know, Dean Reed. He did communist rock and roll music in the late 70s and up into the 80s before he died. Dean Reed. And what was one of Dean Reed's hit songs when he was performing rock and roll across Eastern Europe? He sang one of his songs, Somos los revolucionarios. You know, it's like We Are Revolutionaries, like a communist Latin American song. He sang Venceremos, Venceremos, the song of Salvador Allende. But what was one of the songs that Dean Reed performed across Eastern Europe in his cowboy costume, singing to Eastern European audiences communist-themed American music, communist-themed rock and roll music? What was one of his hit songs? Wounded Knee 73. Look it up. You can find it on YouTube. I'm not a very good musician. I can't sing everything. But it was a hit song in Eastern Europe. People were listening to Wounded Knee 73, a song about the incident on Pine Ridge Reservation, which the American Indian movement, I believe, Leonard Peltier was involved in, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not an expert on the American Indian issue. But, you know, look it up. So geopolitical rivals of the United States have talked a lot about the Native American issue. So you can bet that there are people in the United States establishment that would like Leonard Peltier out of jail. They think, okay, we've got a Native American activist in jail after how many years, and he probably didn't kill the FBI agent. It was probably friendly fire. You know, there's a lot, you know, the other Native American activists who were tried for it, the jury looked at the evidence and they were acquitted. So maybe we should just let Leonard Peltier out. Maybe we should, like, not have this be like a bad image of the United States, right? Everyone knows we killed all the Native Americans and did horrendous things. Maybe that if we let him out, we'll make big publicity about it and say, see, just like we have Black President Barack Obama, just like, we're getting over the racist past. We're going to let out this Native American political prisoner. I am sure that the reason Bill Clinton was probably moving toward letting Leonard Peltier out of jail back in the year 2000 was because people in the intelligence agencies said to him, you know, Bill, it would be really good for America's PR, especially in South America, or this guy named Hugo Chavez just got elected, and there's these communist parties that are fighting austerity, and it would be really good for the image of the United States if you could release Leonard Peltier from jail, and we'll make it a big news story, and it'll show that the USA isn't racist toward Native Americans. It'll be good. So you release Leonard Peltier, we'll clean up the image of the United States, and we can all kind of move on and pretend that the Native American thing and Wounded Knee in 1973 and all that didn't happen. Can you do that for us, Bill? That'd be a good thing, and we'll make sure the message gets out there, and it'll kind of clean up. This'll be some ugly stuff on America's record, and it'll be good. It'll be a good PR move for the United States. And Bill Clinton said, well, I guess I'll do that. I'm Bill Clinton, President of the United States. I like Monica Lewinsky. And he was getting ready to do it. And then the FBI director, Louis Freeh, said, oh, no, you don't. Oh, no, you don't. Hundreds of FBI agents outside the White House. Oh, no, you don't. And Bill Clinton said, I'm going to be leaving office. I really don't want to make the FBI mad. Those guys really know how to get after people. So I guess Leonard Peltier can forget it. But This Mark Rich guy, we can let him out. And don't forget that, right? Mark Rich, that was classic. Mark Rich, the biggest case of tax evasion in all of U.S. history. A tax cheat. A huge, huge tax cheat. Right? Who had happened to be a Bill Clinton donor. The guy was completely corrupt. The guy was, it was like this guy was like, had defrauded the U.S. government out of hundreds of millions of dollars. And Bill Clinton said, Mark Rich, we're going to let this go. We're going to let this go. I'm just going to pardon him. I'm not running for office anymore. It was something else. I like doing voice impressions, folks. I'm having a good time here. My Bill Clinton isn't the best, but it's doable. Man, we're having a great time. That was a bummer that they froze us. I don't know what that was about. I don't know if that was technical difficulties or what was going on. But hey, we want to get this conversation up to where it was. So tweet this new link out. Caleb Maupin continues. Spread the word. We're having a great time here. I'm having a great time with all of you. Got plenty of things we can talk about. Oh my goodness. So tweet this out, please. Tweet out the new live. Katie wants me to do the rest of the live as Bill Clinton. I'm not going to do that. I'm just not going to do that. But, we're having a great time here, folks. But yes. This was the weekend review in the Wall Street Journal. You see this? Can the new Afghanistan survive America's exit? I'm sorry. The United States has been in Afghanistan how many years now? How many years has the United States been in Afghanistan? Well, they went in 2001. They've been there ever since. So 17, maybe 18 years. USA has been in there for 18 years. Since that time, the Taliban has gotten stronger. Afghanistan has become the drug, heroin, poppy field of the world, exporting huge amounts of opium poppies. Drug gangs are there. ISIS, which hadn't even existed, is there. It's a mess. But we're worried what'll happen when they leave. For the longest time, Iran, China, Russia have been trying to economically develop Afghanistan. They have been. They want their plan for stabilizing Afghanistan is called trade and transport. They want to build some trains in there, give them ocean access, set up some manufacturing, get people, some real jobs. So they don't have to be terrorists and drug dealers. That's their plan. That's their plan for Afghanistan is make Afghanistan part of the new Silk Road, the Belt and Road Initiative, the Eurasian Economic Union, lift up, increase living standards in Afghanistan, create economic opportunity. But we got U.S. troops all over Afghanistan. It's a mess. It's a mess, folks. But the question is don't look at how bad it is since the USA got in there. Don't look at how chronically bad it's been for the past 18 years. Think about how bad it could be if they leave. This is silly. Imagine what could happen if Afghanistan were able to be industrialized. What's going on in Eurasia right now? The Eurasian economic miracle people are talking about all over Central Asia, all over parts of the Russian Far East. Amazing things are happening. Let's let Afghanistan be part of the Eurasian Renaissance, where economic opportunities are opening up and countries are expanding and let's fight a war on terror with money rather than with guns and bombs. Let's fight a war on terror with jobs, right? Give the Afghan people something to do. And that's what is in the interest of China, of Russia, and of Iran. All three of those countries want a stable Afghanistan. They want to do business with Afghanistan. They want to integrate Afghanistan into their economy. And that is not in the interests of certain huge multinational corporations that see Iran and Russia and China as competitors and see instability in Afghanistan as a great way to spread drugs and chaos into Russia, into China, and into Iran, right? Afghanistan is right in the middle of three countries the United States wants to antagonize. And as a result, ever since that invasion, it's been a center of chaos and instability, and Iran is having to deal with it, and Iran is having to deal with it, and China is having to deal with it, and Russia has had to deal with it, and it is destabilizing Afghanistan. In terms of geopolitics, was a great move for those that want to go after Russia. It was a great move for those who want to go after China. It was a great move for those who want to go after Iran. It caused big problems for all three of those countries. All right? And all three of those countries happen to be big competitors with the United States. Iran is selling oil. Russia is selling oil and gas. China, it's making the phones and manufacturing and steel and all of that. So if you are Wall Street and you see those three countries as competitors, keeping Afghanistan right smack dab in the middle of them as a center of economic chaos and instability is strategically good. And that's what I am convinced is going on. The United States is keeping Afghanistan unstable, keeping it a mess of terrorism and drug cartels and poverty because they want to hurt three geopolitical rivals. That's what I think is going on. And if the United States were to get out of there, Russia, China, and Iran could economically cooperate to make Afghanistan a more stable place. They could fix the problem. But the United States doesn't want to fix the problem. The United States wants, three of its major rivals to have issues. It's not the United States that wants that. I don't want that. You don't want that, those of you who are watching from the United States. Wall Street and London want that. The bankers and monopolists, the big corporations that have all the power, that want to keep the world poor so that they can stay rich, they see an unstable Afghanistan as being in their geopolitical interest. That's the problem that we have. Folks. So, being who I am, folks, I couldn't resist. There was another article in the weekend review of the Wall Street Journal. No, I will not torture you by reading it to you. But, there's a lot of people who think that the kind of stuff we talk about on these lives is not important. They think, communism, what is it you talk about on here? You're always talking about communists and Maoists and Trotskyites. This is a bunch of stupid, weird, knowledge. This is weird. Nobody cares about any of that. This is some weird insular culture where everyone's talking about something weird. Well, this is a review, in the weekend review of the Wall Street Journal. Chairman Without Borders. And it's a review of a new book that just came out called Maoism, A Global History. Yeah, they care, folks. They care. Horrendous article, by the way. Horrendous article. And when this book comes out, I was thinking when I started reading the article, I might read the book because I might be amused to hear what they have to say about Maoism. But the more I read the article, the more I just, oh my God, anti-communist, awful. But, there's a new book that they're pushing. Mainstream publishers are pushing. Wall Street Journal's reviewing it. A History of Maoism. They're concerned about it, especially with, President Xi Jinping's rise. And I mean, they're academically interested in Maoism. They're definitely interested in the Maoist movement. They're definitely interested in the new communist movement. They're interested in the Comintern and the Communist International. They're interested in the difference between the Trotskyite and the Marxist-Leninist. They are interested in all of this, and you should be too. No, it's not just some obscure interest, right? If you look at what's happening in Venezuela, if you look at what's happening in Bolivia, if you look at the rise of socialism with Chinese characteristics, all this stuff is very, very important to those who understand the world. It's not an obscure interest. It's not a nerdy, hobby. It's something that's vitally important to international affairs and politics. And that's why these classes that we do here in New York, I've been arranging. The class on socialism with Chinese characteristics, taught by my friend Wenhong Yu. The class that I did on what is scientific socialism. All this stuff is very important. People wonder, they think, this is just some weird, niche interest. This is some nerdy thing, Maybe next we'll have a class on, bird house making or bird watching, or maybe we'll have another class about the obscure different kinds of trains. And this stuff is vitally important. That's not to put down anyone who's really interested in trains or really interested in bird watching or bird house making, but this interest is very vital to the world around you. The kind of things we talk about on these lives are important. They're very, very important. This is not simply simply a game that we're playing. This isn't simply some obscure little hobby. Yeah, sure, it's an obscure hobby, and I will say the knowledge that I have about it, the level of investigation I've done in particular into American communist groups and the splits and from the split and all of that. Sure, you can talk about that being a little bit obscure and all of that, but it's very important. It matters, and people that want to just dismiss all of this as some weird nerd obsession, that's all well and good, but why did the Wall Street Journal just review a book on Maoism? I mean, it's, why do they have whole think tanks studying this kind of thing? This stuff is very, very important. It's very, very, very important. So did they just freeze me again? I think they... What am I saying on here that bothers these people so much? What am I doing that it is upsetting them? Or is it just my phone is acting? What is going on here? What is going on here? I haven't had freezing problems for weeks. I mean, I thought I'm doing everything right. I try to have my phone as cool as possible. I have it off. I try to, take as much out of my phone as possible. I need to get a new phone or a new camera that I can plug into my laptop. This is not okay. I am not happy about that. I am not happy about this, folks. Got a few other things I'm going to talk about, but I don't like being frozen. I want to talk to you. This isn't a podcast. This is what is going on here? Folks. Folks, if you want to understand Donald Trump, and this is a completely new direction that I'm going in, if you want to understand Donald Trump, you really ought to understand Norman Vincent Peale. Norman Vincent Peale, he was like a minister who was also kind of a self-help guru. He goes back to the 50s. And Donald Trump's father took little Donald to see Norman Vincent Peale. Donald Trump's family was obsessed with Norman Vincent Peale. It was a big obsession. And you can bet that Donald Trump, when he was a child, Donald Trump, when he was a young man, was a teenager, spent hours and hours and hours listening to the lectures and sermons of Norman Vincent Peale. Donald Trump is deeply influenced by Norman Vincent Peale. Deeply influenced by him. Now, he's a blast from the past, as people are saying. He's dead, long dead. But if you want to understand the mindset of Donald Trump, you really ought to read or listen to or figure out what that's really more of an influence on Trump than you would know. And it's not a political influence. It's like a psychological influence, I would say. The mindset of Donald Trump comes from that. Now, someone's pointing out that Ronald Reagan was also a fan of Norman Vincent Peale. I think that's interesting as well. But yes, I wanted to mention that. I also wanted to mention, folks, and I think I'm going to wrap this up because I'm frozen here, and whatever. I'm going to wrap this up, but I've read to you all from the book City Builders and Vandals in Our Age. It's a popular book. It's selling. People are buying it. People like it. And, let me mention, I have also read to you all from Getting Rich Without Capitalism, which is also quite popular. I continue to, people read that, my book, my short little socialist collection of, kind of a manifesto and collection of articles, Getting Rich Without Capitalism. People read that. But I will mention that I am continuing, and it's going to be a long time. I thought it's going to take me longer than I thought. It's going to take me longer than I thought, and thank you, Space Communist, for that lovely, lovely super chat. But there is book, I'm calling it book number 2. Because, as I jokingly reference, book number 1 would be City Builders and Vandals in Our Age, but there's another book. The idea was that book would be kind of in a set, and there's a book that will accompany that one. And I'm calling it book number 2. I don't have an official title yet. Book number 2 is on the way. And it's going to take me a while to work on it, to finish it. But it's called book number 2. Book 2. I'm doing a lot of research. That's why I'm not writing as many articles. I'm focusing more on just doing research and getting all the chapters together. But for those of you who really like my work, you are going to like book number 2. You're going to really like it. I'm doing a lot of investigation now, so keep your eyes out for it. Keep in your mind knowledge that book number 2 is on its way. Someone said I should call it Getting Frozen on My Computer. I think that's hilarious. But yes, book number 2. Book number 2. Thank you, Kinky, for this lovely, lovely super chat. I appreciate it. But yes, folks. Yes, book number 2 is a work that I'm doing, and you know, it's not an autobiography, not deeply personal, but not completely non-personal either. It's an interesting work. It is, and doing a lot of research, doing a lot of investigation. It's an explanation of concepts. It's more about the country, where we're at, I think, than anything. It'll be also about the Obama years, what went on during the Obama years. But you're going to love it. I think you really will like it. If you like my work, you're going to like book number 2. I am very appreciative of all of you. You're a great community. I'm glad you're all here, and thank you, Faint Signals from Vega. I'm glad. You don't have to agree with everything I say to be part of this community, for goodness sakes, right? If everyone agreed with me on everything, this world would be pretty boring. I, for one, am a little bit frustrated that I'm freezing here, and that's reinforcing in me the desire to get a new camera, which I will do. I'm also noticing that the 2 people who sent me super chats are in LA, and I'm planning a trip to LA in October, so I hope to meet both of you in person. And I thank you for those super chats. I do appreciate it. And I'll be in LA in October, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Not finalized yet, but it's on the way, hopefully. Hoping to have an event out in LA. Shout out to my friend Ramiro if he's listening. So, folks, I appreciate everything. I had a quite tiring and stressful week this week, but I got to make some interesting videos with confronting the Venezuelans, etc. So, yes, folks, despite the fact that we got unfairly frozen, we continue. Our efforts do not stop. We keep going and going and going and going. Our little revolution here continues. I'm glad you're all here. I'm glad we're having a great conversation. And I must say, at this point, adieu.